Hi everybody! Today I'm painting a quick portrait of Oscar-winning actress Lupita Nyong'o. I wanted to demonstrate how I paint dark skin tones with watercolor, and she's just so beautiful. Plus she's highly accomplished and a true heroine for so many. I drew some light, basic outlines of her face, and now I'm applying masking fluid to areas I want to stay white, such as this earring. To save time, I put my main colors in a cluster around a large mixing area. I limited myself to cadmium red light, which is a bright orange, dioxazine mauve, or purple, sepia, which is my dark brown, and burnt sienna, which is a reddish brown. I also used small amounts of thalo and cerulean blue, along with a little yellow for her headband. I almost always start a portrait by painting the entire face with clear water. The masking fluid appears as a light yellow. The water will help the paint flow and prevent streaks. Then I'm using sepia as a sort of base, and I'll add my orange and reddish brown to the warm areas near the light side of her face. Sepia and purple are the main ingredients for the shadows. I just love watching these colors flow together. It never gets old. You'll see me tip my board occasionally to get the paint to move, too. When you think about watercolor paintings, you probably imagine lots of loose, airy pastel colors. Watercolors just naturally want to do that. Creating dark colors takes patience and multiple layers. What I have going on here is nowhere near dark enough, in my opinion, and once it dries a bit, it'll look even lighter. I think I used at least 4 or 5 layers to create the finished shadows around Lupita's cheekbone. This video was sped up 9 times, so the paper seems to be drying a lot faster than it normally would. As it dries, I'm continuing to add color, and it's easier to control. I'm skipping around a lot too. I was happy to start working on her eyes while her skin dries. It seems like every portrait goes through an awkward phase. Her eyes are still mostly white, and she doesn't even have a mouth yet. I've learned not to get panicky during the awkward phase and trust that I know what I'm doing, but sometimes a portrait can look alarmingly weird for a while. Her mouth is a mixture of some of these browns and some cadmium red light. Her bottom lip has a large highlight that will eventually make more sense. Lupita recently won a number of awards for her phenomenal performance in 12 Years a Slave, and so if you do an image search for her, you'll find hundreds of red carpet photos of Lupita looking amazing. Unfortunately for me, most of them have intense flashbulb lighting, where the light is right in the center of her face, and I wanted something with more interesting shadows and maybe a different angle. I was happy to find the reference photo for this painting. She looked so hopeful in it, and one side of her face was lit while the other was in shadow. I wanted to be able to illustrate the huge range of values you can see in dark skin. Lupita's skin reflects light beautifully, and some of the highlights on her face will be white. Then she has gorgeous caramel and reddish-brown midtones that border the shadows, which are a rich purplish brown. As I painted Lupita, I was in awe of this range of lights and darks. Her hair is very easy and fun to paint. First I laid in the darks with my brown and purple mixture, and as I moved up, I added some water where the light hits her hair. Next, I'm adding more darkness and texture with my fuzzy, old round brush, sort of dotting it on and letting it blur. You can see the headband dividing her hair into 2 areas. I also dabbed a tiny bit of paper towel over parts of her hair to create little highlights. Sometimes I wonder how many ears I've painted in my life. It's got to be hundreds. Also, I apologize for some of the focusing problems my camera might have over the next few minutes. One of the settings was off and sometimes my hand confused it. So this is kind of fun. I'm pulling the masking fluid off with my fingers. It feels like a rubber band as it comes up. I didn't want to disturb the surrounding paint because it was still not totally dry. But some places it was dry, so I used this rubber cement pickup tool. So now I'm softening the edges where the masking fluid used to be. I'm rubbing a damp, small brush along those edges. This is an easy job if you're painting quickly like I am. The paint is still alive on the paper and wants to blend with a tiny amount of water on the brush. But if I let the edges dry overnight, for example, the paint would have more time to bond with the paper and the edges would be much harder to soften. Now that the masking fluid is gone, I can finally add some drama to her eyes, including her eyelashes. For some reason, I thought she looked happier once I deepened this shadow under her eye. So many muscles work together to create a smile, and apparently this was an important one for her. Again, I'm using my bits of damp paper towel to soften edges and bring out highlights. You should see my painting table after I'm done painting for the day. Colorful little wads of paper towels are everywhere. I mean, just look at her. What must it be like to have a face this perfect? She's a goddess. Lupita talked about her experience growing up with darker skin and how her young fans with similar skin look up to her. It's touching and inspirational, and I've linked to it below. After a lot of fussing around with details, I decided that her cheekbone still wasn't dark enough, so I made the risky decision to darken it again. Then, once an area like that is darkened, the other darks have to be adjusted to match it. I dabbed on some toned down yellow to create her gold headband, making sure some of it stayed white, and then I put in some little dark shapes. I kept all non-face items like this one, her dress, and even her neck looser to keep the focus on her face. Her dress was white with bluish-gray shadows. I added some cerulean. And this is by far my favorite part, defining the highlights on the side of her face with a big brush loaded with dark paint. Nothing is more satisfying. It's like she came to life for me when I did this. See that puddle on the left side? It'll be less obnoxious when I tip this. After lots more little stuff, I did it again. It's another layer of darkness on her cheekbone. I promise you this is the last one. And here's the finished Lupita. Thanks a lot for watching.